Welcome to my channel where we discuss everything and all things politics, economy, and development in Nigeria and around the world. In this live, we're going to discuss about an interesting issue in Nigeria because right now Nigeria is in an economic meltdown. But who is to be blamed for the economic meltdown of Nigeria? Who do we blame for this? Who should be held accountable for the economic meltdown of Nigeria? Or if you like, for the economic mess that Nigeria has found itself, where 1,500 naira is now exchanging for $1. And a few days ago, it was even about 1,600 naira to the dollar and 2,000 naira to £1, British pound. Who is responsible for this economic mess? Where demonstrations, protests has started in several parts of the country to protest against the hardship that had been occasioned by the economic situation in the country. Now, amid all this economic meltdown in Nigeria, there is a growing cause of what we can call blaming everyone else but President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for the problem of the country. The narrative is that it is the fault of everyone else but Tinubu for the problem, for the economic situation in the country. But President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and he is also one of the most powerful presidents in the world in terms of the powers that he wields. He wields enormous power. The president of Nigeria is probably one of the most powerful presidents in the world. So, can he be truly exonerated from the economic mess that the country finds itself? Now, in this court of everyone else is to be blamed, but not President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is Reno Omokri. Reno Omokri used to be a staunch supporter of one of the presidential candidates in the last election, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, former vice president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Even before then, Reno Omokri was special assistant to former President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan as new media aide. He worked with Jonathan when Jonathan was president of Nigeria. In the last election, he was among the major critics of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He was among those who talk about the facts of the forfeiture of $360,000 to the United States government, alleged proceeds of narcotics by the president, and talk about certificate issues and all that, which was one of the talking points of that election. He was a major critic of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu as a candidate, but he has now turned 360 degree. He is one of the core supporters of Tinubu right now, and he belongs to this court of everyone else, but Tinubu should be blamed for the economic situation in the country. And recently he posted on his X handle that Nigerians should stop cursing President Tinubu for the hardship and high dollar rates in Nigeria. He said that Nigerians' preference of foreign products against locally made goods contributed to the hardship in the country. He said the exchange rate of the US dollar will not drop until Nigerians opt for locally made products. Now, in this case, he is blaming Nigerians and not Tinubu for the state of the economy. Posting on his X handle, Omokri wrote, he said, "You come on the internet with MTN. You are wearing $250 human hair wig that was sacrificed in an Indian temple and then shipped to Nigeria as Brazilian hair. Your clothes come from Italy, your shoes from Spain, and you had cocoa oats from England for breakfast, with eggs from South Africa, which you ate while watching DSTV, also from South Africa. And you are heaping curses on Bola Tinubu over the state of the Naira. You are the problem with the Naira. With you, MTN dollar, Bambe, apparently he wrote that, he said that's probably Yoruba language. You are not producing locally or consuming locally, and you come to social media to complain. Then don't yet understand that Naira has been floated. If you like, throw tantrums from now till 2027. The dollar will not come down until you start consuming made in Nigeria goods and services. If your money is not circulating in made in Nigeria goods and services, no power on earth can make your Naira circulate with higher purchasing power. This is about economics. This is not about propaganda. Drive innocent, call with Glow, build with Dangote, and eat with NASCO. Here, Reno Mokre is claiming that it is Nigerians that should be blamed for the state of the Naira because of their consumption of foreign goods. But Reno Mokre conveniently forgot to mention that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is among those who are involved in conspicuous consumption of foreign goods and services. The last time I checked, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu does not take his medicals in Nigeria. He normally travels to London or to Paris for his medicals. And you can imagine how much he spent on it. Of course, we know that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu had been going abroad for his medicals for years, because even the Pension Act of Lagos State, which he left behind as governor, made a provision that the state, Lagos State, will take care of his health needs throughout his life, and that of other former governors. So he is among those who have been frittering away our dollars to outside Nigeria, if Reno Mokwe, we are to believe Reno Mokwe. As president, he has severally gone abroad for medical treatment, for medical vacation. The last time he traveled to Paris, they say it was on a private visit. Now all these cost dollars, millions of dollars, for the president of a country like Nigeria to travel on a private visit, which of course Femi Falana, senior advocate of Nigeria, said there's no provision in the constitution for the president of the country to go on a private visit to any country outside Nigeria. If President Bola Ahmed Tinubu cares about the dollar rate and the state of the naira, he ought not to have traveled on a private visit to Paris. Now, if you want to have a vacation, there are several vacation spots in Nigeria, including the Obudu Cattle Ranch, the Kainji Dam, the Kainji Game Reserve, and so many other tourism spots in Nigeria that he could have drawn attention to. So you can therefore not exonerate President Bola Ahmed Tinubu from the state of the naira. Now look at the budget that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has presented and which he approved, where they budgeted hundreds of millions of dollars to buy SUVs for senators and House of Representative members, including their special vehicles for their principal officers. These cost multi-millions of dollars to be executed. These are where the money is going. And the person who's pretended over it, you think he should not be blamed. It is those who use MTN to make call that should be blamed. Those who recharge their DSTV are the ones that are filtering away our dollars. I do not agree with Reno Mokwe. It is those who are involved in governance and who huge amount of dollars as a result of their policies and programs leave the country for United States, Europe, and other parts of the world. So that is a fact. So if really we are talking about those to blame, there's no way any reasonable person will exonerate President Bola Ahmed Tinubu the way this court of anyone else but Tinubu is responsible, will not have any basis to exist. Because right now, they are the one doing propaganda that the problem in the country has nothing to do with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, that he inherited the problem that we have in the country. Interestingly, that was also the logic we live with in Nigeria for the past 8 years before Tinubu came in. Remember that during the administration of Muhammadu Buhari, all the problems of Nigeria were heaped on the PDP. 16 years of PDP. 16 years of PDP was blamed for the problem of Nigeria. Now, after 8 years and 8.5 years of APC, Nigeria has gone from frying pan to fire. Things has gotten worse, which indicates that the APC also is not the solution. But what I'm saying here is that you cannot exonerate President Bola Ahmed Tinubu from the mess that the country's economy is right now. Now, there was an interesting development that happened recently on Arise Television, when Arise Television invited the former executive secretary of National Health Insurance Scheme, Professor Usman Yusuf, to speak on the state of the nation. And Professor Yusuf, who is very vocal and don't suffer fools gladly, was able to marshal out the reasons why he believed that the Tinubu administration created the economic mess that the country is in. And he even accused President Bola Ahmed Tinubu of nepotism, because at the time the interview took place, the president had just appointed his son-in-law to head an agency in the Federal Housing Authority, which many people consider nepotistic. And Professor Yusuf also saw that appointment in that light. Apparently, the court of anybody else is the problem, but Tinubu, we are not happy with this. So one of them, from the revelation he made, called Mr. Onakbaso, called the owner of Arise Television, Ndoko Baebena, and demanded that they need a right of reply to counter the position of Professor Usman Yusuf. Now, this Mr. Nakwaso, he was introduced as a writer, lawyer, and public affairs analyst. He was also introduced as the chairman of Tinubu Media Support Group. He was also introduced as vice chairman, Independent Media and Policy Initiative, and former member of the All Progressive Congress Presidential Campaign Council. He was also a member of the Tinubu Presidential Legal Team. Now, most watchers of the program or the television had expected him to take Professor Yusuf's point one by one and demolish them. But what he did was just throwing tantrums and was blaming everyone else but Tinubu for the state of the economy. He said that the state of the economy was already messed up by former President Muhammadu Buhari. He said that Buhari ruined the economy, and that it was that ruination of the economy that Buhari did that Nigerians have seen the impact and complaining about the state of the economy. That if Nigerians want to blame anybody for the state of the economy, they should blame former President Muhammadu Buhari. That he is the reason for the poor state of the economy, that it is Buhari's fault. Even in terms of nepotism, he didn't counter that alleged nepotistic appointment, but all he could say was that, is it the nepotism now, is it worse than it was under Buhari? So in other words, the fault is on Buhari. Buhari is the reason why Nigeria is in an economic mess. But I will get to that very well when the role of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in the present state of the economy that we are in. I will give a more detailed analysis of it when we examine all this argument that Tinubu is not to blame, that it was somebody else. or his advisors that should be blamed. Now, another person who is also in this group is Felix Morka. Felix Morka is the APC National Publicity Secretary. Anytime he speaks, you can see that he is basically to divert attention from the actions of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and to look for scapegoats to blame for the state of the nation. He will dance around every issue just to exonerate Tinubu from the problem, the economic situation in the country. Recently, when women in Niger State who mobilized themselves and the youths of Niger State to occupy a major highway in Niger State, in Minna, the capital of Niger State, to protest against the high cost of living. The response of Felix Morka was that that protest was being sponsored and that the state of the economy was not the fault of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He said that they were being sponsored by the opposition. But strangely, Niger State is controlled by the ruling All Progressive Congress. But in order not to blame the president, they want to blame the opposition. But the truth of the matter remains that the state of the economy has made life miserable for most Nigerians. That is why you have seen protests in Minna, in Lokoja, in Kano, in southwest Nigeria, and other parts of the country. But these protests are being seen as being instigated by people who don't understand the reason for the economic crisis and for the food shortages and high cost of living in general. That it was the result of the Tinubu, of the Buhari administration. That it is all the fault of Tinubu, Buhari administration, and not the fault of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, in the past 8 months, has done nothing wrong in the running of the economy. It is all the fault of Buhari. But during the campaign, there were several videos that could show you that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu promised to build on the economic legacy of Buhari. And there were several videos where Tinubu stood in the presence of Buhari and was telling Buhari that he is going to build on the legacies that you left behind, your economic legacies. But now, that legacy is being demolished as if it doesn't exist. Perhaps it doesn't exist. But Tinubu never criticized the economic policies of Buhari. But now they are blaming everything on former President Buhari, that he is the reason for every mess in the economy today. And Buhari is a member of the ruling All Progressive Congress. And Tinubu helped Buhari to become president in 2015 and 2019. Now, another group, another set of in this group of you can call the cult of blaming everyone else but Tinubu, is the Afenifere. And I believe that this is a faction of the Afenifere and not the one that was led that is led by Adebanjo. Now this factional Afenifere in a statement by the group's publicity and organizing secretaries, Jare Ajayi and Kole Omololu, they said that the state of the economy in Nigeria was made worse by the immediate past administration of President Muhammadu Buhari. And they accused Buhari to have dug political and economic holes for the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So it is Buhari's fault and not Tinubu's fault. It also blamed Buhari for subsidy removal because he made no provision for it in the 2023 budget. Now, in the 2023 budget, former President Buhari did not make any provision for subsidy payment. But you know that the Buhari administration, like this present administration, was also a very deceptive administration. When the Buhari administration came in, they claimed that they have stopped paying for a subsidy. That they were not paying for a subsidy. That fuel subsidy has gone, that they are not paying it. That was the narrative. That they don't pay for a subsidy, that they have cancelled for a subsidy. It was much later that administration now claimed that what they were paying was under recovery and not for a subsidy. They were lying on that under recovery, which was being bandied about as the policy of the government by former Vice President Yemi Osibanjo, until they could no longer cover the lie that they were paying for a subsidy. And they now came out in the open that they are paying for a subsidy and that it has gotten out of hand and that they are not going to pay for it following the enactment of the PIB law. They say they are not going to pay subsidy again. But initially they said they have stopped subsidy, that what they were paying was under recovery. But under recovery was just a matter of semantics. They were paying subsidy. Enter President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Bola Ahmed Tinubu on May 29th, 2023, when he was sworn in, at the inauguration ground, announced that fuel subsidy is gone. He said no more fuel subsidy. And people are trying to exonerate Tinubu from the removal of fuel subsidy. Like this Afenifere group, they believe that that people should not blame Tinubu for removal of fuel subsidy. But Tinubu himself is so proud that he removed the fuel subsidy, because he believed that it was a very courageous thing that he has done, that he removed the fuel subsidy. So he deserved, in fact, he had said it severally, that he deserved the Guinness World Record for the reforms that he has brought in since he became president. And one of it was the removal of fuel subsidy. Now, we are now to discover that indeed President Bola Ahmed Tinubu did not remove the fuel subsidy. Because if he had removed the fuel subsidy, the International Monetary Fund will not in their recent report say that Nigeria is still paying fuel subsidy, and that Nigeria is still paying electricity subsidy. Now, you would have expected that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his administration will counter the International Monetary Fund to insist that they are not paying any subsidy on fuel again. But they kept moving. They didn't say anything. Which means the IMF exposed President Bola Ahmed Tinubu that he's paying fuel subsidy, even when he claimed he's not. But despite this fact, Afenifere want us to believe that Tinubu was not the one that removed fuel subsidy, that it was Buhari who didn't make provision for it in the 2023 budget. Now, another set of people that has also joined this group, this cause of blaming everyone else for the economic mess but Tinubu, is a northern group known as Arewa Initiative for Defense and Promotion of Democracy, AIDPD, which attributed the current economic hardship to the actions of former President Muhammadu Buhari. They say it was Buhari's fault that Nigeria is passing through the present economic meltdown. The chairman of the group, Shehu Abdullahi Maji, said Tinubu inherited the worst economy so far. So they are describing Buhari's economy as the worst economy so far. So Tinubu supporters believe that actually the APC administration in the last 8.5 years left the economy in a worse state than ever before, thereby acknowledging that the economy was better. Of course, factually, it was better under the PDP than the present administration. So you have seen several people who don't believe that the state of the economy, Tinubu had a major contribution to it, but rather it was the past administration. You see it in comments on social media where people blame others, the central bank governor, they blame the minister of finance, they blame every other person but Tinubu for the state of the economy. But under the presidential system that we operate in Nigeria, you cannot take any major decision that affects the economy. You cannot take any major decision that affects the economy without the president giving a go-ahead. That's why sometimes I laugh when people begin to blame Emefiele, the former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, for being responsible for all the mess that happened in the last administration. Now, let us now look at it factually. Can you exonerate President Bola Ahmed Tinubu from the state of the nation today? Can we say that Tinubu had no hand in the state of the economy today? And if he had no hand in it, what had he done to show that he is different from the last administration? What has he done to show that he is different from the last administration? Truth be told, the food scarcity in the country, the high cost of living in the country, the imprint of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is everywhere in it. Let's take, for instance, the removal of the fuel subsidy. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu removed the fuel subsidy even before he formed his cabinet. In other words, he did it hurriedly without listening to wise counsel, without having an economic team. And everything in Nigeria is denominated in power and cost of power. Ever since that fuel subsidy was removed, the price of goods and services have increased by over 300%. It affected both the farmer, both the small-scale business people. You know, one of these deceptions we have in this country is to claim that, and it was fueled by the IMF and their sympathizers in Nigeria, including the World Bank, that fuel subsidy does not benefit the poor, that it benefits only the rich, which is a lie from the pit of hell. If you look at it now, who are the people suffering most? It's the ordinary Nigerians. It is the ordinary Nigerian, the barber, the hairdresser, the welder, the mechanic, those who use a pass my neighbor generator to power their businesses. It's affecting them. The people that grind pepper and onions and whatever you can think about, it's affecting them. And then you sell the narrative that fuel subsidy does not benefit the poor. It's only the rich that are benefiting. But who are the people suffering most now? Is it not the poor? Why are people on the streets in Mina, in Kano, in Sokoto, in Ibadan, and elsewhere around the country protesting? These are ordinary people. It's affecting them. It is to put, these people are showing you that it was a lie from the pit of hell, that ordinary people are not benefiting from fuel subsidy. That it's only the rich that are benefiting. That fuel subsidy is just a drain pipe. We agree. There are corruption in the fuel subsidy regime, like every other part of Nigerian life. There is no part of Nigerian bureaucracy that is not tainted by corruption, from top to bottom. But we can't scrap everything. So that was a lie that was told. Now, with the removal of that fuel subsidy, that is one of the things that put Nigeria in the present mess. I have heard people say, and rightly too, that removal of fuel subsidy was a consensus, that even the presidential candidate of Labour Party, Peter Obi, also agreed that it should be removed. And there were videos of Peter Obi saying that he will remove it. And the candidate of the PDP during the election, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, he also promised to remove it. But the difference between this Peter Obi's promise of removing it and Bola Ahmed Tinubu is that Peter Obi had a laid plan for doing it, and that it had to be done gradually to be removed, but with enough incentives set up to ameliorate the blowback that is going to arise as a result of the removal of the fuel subsidy. Peter Obi was clear about it. But President Bola Ahmed Tinubu didn't have time to think deep about this policy. And there were those who are even saying that announcement of the removal of fuel subsidy was not in his speech, original speech. It means that it was an action that he took without deep thinking. And when you take an action without deep thinking, you create all kinds of problems. And that is what is happening. Today, the cost of living in Nigeria has hit the roof. Everyone is complaining. The downtrodden, the 133 million Nigerians who are living under poverty before now are complaining. The middle class are complaining. The upper class are complaining. The naira is now 1,500 naira to the dollar. 2,000 naira to the pound. Unprecedented situation that nobody would have ever envisaged would happen in Nigeria. But it's happening. And it could get worse. Then another thing that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu did, which also those who don't want to blame him for anything are not taking note of, or don't want, or are blind to it, is the fact that he floated the naira. You can blame former President Muhammadu Buhari for whatever you like, but it wasn't Buhari that floated the naira in June of 2024. In June of 2023 or thereabout, when they started the flotation of this naira. It wasn't Buhari that floated the naira. In fact, Buhari floated the naira with Emefiele as governor of Central Bank in 2016. You can go and Google it. Buhari and Emefiele floated the naira in 2016. That was barely a year after Buhari became president of Nigeria. They floated the naira. They floated it for a while, and they discovered that it can't work in a country like Nigeria that is an import-dependent nation. And what did they do? They stopped it immediately. Their fingers got burned, and they now realize that, look, you cannot allow the naira to be floated in an import-dependent economy, in an unproductive country, in an unproductive society, in a society in which almost 90% of what is consumed are imported. You cannot float the naira. And then you look at your balance sheet. The amount of earnings from oil, which is your main source, is not sustainable. You look at your reserves, it's not sustainable. Emefiele and Buhari ran away from it. So the idea of flotation is not a new thing. The IMF and the World Bank had been putting pressure on Nigeria to float the naira. Emefiele and Buhari tried it in 2016. Their fingers were burnt and they dropped it like anybody would drop a hot charcoal put in his hand. In 2022, in an interview that Emefiele granted Bloomberg, and it was also in an event in which the World Bank and the IMF was there, Emefiele sounded it very clear that Nigeria will not float its naira, that Nigeria will not float its currency. As I'm talking to you, you can check it out. Google it. Go to Google right now and check out this thing I'm telling you. Emefiele said it to the World Bank and IMF that Nigeria will not float its naira. That there will be no flotation of the naira. And of course, Emefiele was talking from experience of what happened in 2016 when they tried it. Today, everybody is blaming Emefiele that he was spending billions of dollars defending the naira. Okay, now that the naira is defenseless, what is the gain to Nigerians? What is the gain now that the naira is defenseless? Emefiele was accused. I'm not defending Emefiele. He's already in court, and he has to find a way to explain whatever he did in the office. But the defense of the naira that they did was the reason why the economy was not this bad under the administration. The fact of the matter remains that when Emefiele was the governor of the central bank, the naira at the black market was not more than 750 naira to the dollar. At the I&E window, that's import and export window, it was about 400 and something naira to the dollar. Today, the black market and the I&E window are competing in terms of volume of, or in terms of rates of increase. So, and you don't want to, and these people don't think that Tinubu had anything to do with it. It's not Buhari that floated the Naira. This Naira that is in the present state, it was President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So why do you have to exonerate him from the economic mess when he was the one that floated the Naira and is still floating the Naira? It shows that you are not really being fair to Nigerians. He floated the Naira, and he's the one doing all the policies, sanction, approving all the policies. It is convenient for them now to claim that MFLA did everything. He didn't get any approval from Buhari. MFLA was just there, just doing anyhow he liked. And I have said it elsewhere, that there is no way Buhari will hand over the economy of Nigeria to MFLA to do anyhow without being no oversight by Buhari himself. And the same thing is happening now. Tinubu floated the Naira, but nobody is blaming him. But there is a cult of people who feel that he shouldn't be blamed for the state of the Naira. So who is to be blamed for the flotation of the Naira? Because the flotation of the Naira is part of the problem. It's part of the reason why the economy is where it is today. Why the cost of living is too high for the average Nigerian. Where the price of rice, a bag of rice, is more than double the minimum wage of Nigeria, which is 30,000. And if you do the real minimum wage in Nigeria, because many states are still paying 18,000, many states are not paying the 30,000 naira minimum wage. There are many states like Kogi State in Nigeria where they are paying workers in percentages. Do you know how many months it will take a worker in Kogi State to buy a bag of rice? How many percentage of salaries that had to be paid to him to buy a bag of rice? And so who is to be blamed for the bag of rice that is now at 70,000, some say 75,000, depending on the geographic location where you are buying it from? So who is to be blamed for that? Who is to be blamed for the fact that vehicles, cars are beyond the reach of most Nigerians now? Who is to be blamed that a Toyota Camry is bought for 2 million naira, and when it gets to the ports of Nigeria, you have to pay 3 million to clear it? Who is to be blamed? Who is to be blamed for that? Is it Buhari that should be blamed for that? Is it the PDP administration of the last 16 years that should be blamed for that? Who should be blamed for the high cost of living in Nigeria today? There was a report by Leadership newspaper where the Nigerian Post, the Central Bank of Nigeria approved the exchange rate at the port. They approved increase in the exchange rate of the port. The exchange rate at the port increased 4 times in 10 days. 4 times in 10 days. The exchange rate of the dollar, the exchange rate of the dollar to the naira at the port for clearance of goods, for payment for cargoes from the port, it increased 4 times in 10 days. increased to the level of 1,444 naira to the dollar. Now I understand it has increased to 1,494 naira to the dollar at the port. And this is at the port. So when the goods enter inside the supermarkets, you expect the supermarket to sell it the same price like the old stock. And you think the business will survive. So federal government is more, under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is more concerned about the generation of revenue at the ports through the customs than about the inflationary rate that we are experiencing. Because what the truth of the matter remains, that when you are increasing the landing cost of cargoes at the seaport, the way the Tinubu administration were doing, that cost you are adding, and you are priding yourself that you are generating more revenue, will be passed to the Nigerian masses. It is the reason why the cost of goods are very high in Nigeria. Or you have seen how they have gone to, they are now closing down supermarkets that the tag, the price tag on the goods is different from what people pay at the departure point. Because the supermarket business have to survive. If you buy a toothpaste, you have it in your supermarket and you are selling it 10 naira, or you are selling it, let's say you are selling it 1,000 naira. And already you know that at the port, the new set of toothpaste coming in, federal government is charging a huge amount of money on top of it. Common sense to survive in business means that you have to start to sell the old stock, the new price. That is, it's not an offense, because that is the only way to beat inflation in a country like Nigeria and in countries like Venezuela and other countries where their leaders don't know how to manage their economy. But now people are being punished because they didn't change the label on time. But I have learned that these days the supermarket owners have finally found a way around about it. They are now removing the label. No label. You now pay as you are coming out. When you gather the goods, when you go to the every of the supermarket, and there will be no tag. That was they're now acting like they said in like in Okonkwo's Things Fall Apart, in Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart, where Naked Bed said that since man has learned to shoot without missing, that he has learned to fly without pitching. That's what they have done. But the fact of the matter remains that the fault is in the government. It is the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu that is behind the high cost of living in Nigeria. So you cannot exonerate Buhari and Tinubu, because one of the selling point of Tinubu during the campaign, if you remember, was that Tinubu knows how to generate revenue. That internally generated revenue in Lagos was nothing to write home about until President Bola Ahmed Tinubu came into the picture. And he was able to blow the IGR of Lagos State. And there were those who are selling him that he will do in Abuja what he did in Lagos. This time he will do it nationwide. So Tinubu is more concerned about revenue generation at the ports. And that revenue generation drive is what they're after. That is why they keep on increasing the landing rate for cargo clearance. They keep on increasing it on a daily basis. I told you a report by the leadership newspaper where they increased it 4 times in 10 days. And it has even gone beyond that right now as I'm talking to you. So if you are increasing the cost of landing rate and cargo clearance at the ports, what do you think will happen? Do you think that these business people, they are morons, they don't know what they are doing? They are going to pass the cost to Nigerians. That is why you see constant changes in the prices of goods and commodities in Nigeria. Because as the federal government of Nigeria under Tinubu is increasing at the ports, these people are transferring it to ordinary Nigerians. And they are increasing it. We understand that they want the rate charged at the port to be at par with the black market rate. And you think that the country will not have its challenges with the price of goods and services. It will. So it is the action of the Tinubu administration that is responsible for the high cost of goods and services. The reason why the goods and services, you go to the supermarket today, you go to the market today, the prices are changing so fast. It is because at the ports where Tinubu is in charge, through the Central Bank of Nigeria and the custom services, they are increasing the rates of exchange every day, literally, so that they can generate more revenue, so that the rates will be at par with the black market rate. So that is why it is funny that some people think that Tinubu has no hand in what is happening, that it is the fault of Buhari, it is the fault of other people, and not the fault of Tinubu. It is their policy, the policy of flotation of the naira, the policy of trying to generate revenue. And you know they are ready to take pride in the fact that they have increased the revenue generation. You can see how they celebrate it now that they remove fuel subsidy, that states are now awash with cash, that states has money, that the state's federal allocation to states has, some say it has tripled, some say it has quadrupled. So states have money. You can see those who are blaming everybody else but Tinubu, they are blaming the states. Say they are collecting more than ever before. The states are collecting billions more than ever before. But you ask yourself, what is the value of the billions that the states are collecting since the removal of fuel subsidy to what they were collecting before? For instance, if a state is collecting 50 billion monthly, 50 billion naira monthly from federation accounts or from FAC, now since Tinubu removed the fuel subsidy in May, let's say they are now getting, that state is getting 80 billion naira. Do you think the value of the 18 billion naira today is the same with the value of 80 billion or 50 billion naira before the removal of fuel subsidy? Looking at the rate of the naira to the dollar today. Yeah, look at it. It reminds me of a story I saw on social media where somebody in 2022 had about $3,000. He went and changed it and put it in fixed deposit. He changed it, he got about 1 million naira. And then put it in fixed deposit. This year, he has gone to collect the fixed deposit, the percentage on top of the fixed deposit, and he got 1.1 million naira. That is, he got interest of 100,000 naira on top of the fixed deposit. Now, when he changed that 1.1 million naira to dollars, he gave him about $777 or thereabout. Can you see where the man is coming from? So if the man who got that $3,000 in 2022 had put that dollar under his pillow and was sleeping with it today, do you know how much millions he would have had? But because he changed it to naira in 2022 and put it in fixed deposit, and now wanted to change it back to the dollar, can you see he's a big loser? That is how the states are losing also from the subsidy removal. Because what they are getting now, you think they are awash with cash, cannot be able to execute what they were able to execute when the government was paying subsidy. And they were getting lesser amount of money. But the narrative out there is, why are you blaming Tinubu? Blame the state governors. They are now awash with cash. I agree that the states, there's so much profligacy in the states. But you cannot blame the states without also blaming the federal government or blaming President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Because his actions and inactions are the reason why we are in the present state we are. It is because of his actions and inaction that many multinational companies are leaving Nigeria. We have to tell ourselves the truth. That is a fact that we cannot run away from. Now they are blaming every other person for the state of the naira, that people are not buying made in Nigerian goods. But when it was time for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to encourage made in Nigerian vehicles, he supported the National Assembly to buy made in Japan cars, SUVs. He supported that his own office should have SUVs made in Japan. He supported SUVs for the office of the First Lady to buy made in Japan SUVs that are paid in dollars. And yet, he should not be blamed, he should not be mentioned that he plays a role in the state of the naira. And his continuous intervention in the ports are the reason why the prices of essential commodities keep on increasing on a daily basis. And we know it as a fact that Nigeria is an import-dependent country. Most of the things we consume in Nigeria are imported. So anything increase in the ports affects the ordinary man on the street, because he is the one that will pay the price for that revenue that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the custom exercise, the custom service, and CBN, they are generating at the ports. Somebody has to pay the price. And you know that the businessman who imported all these things, he is no fool. He is not going to carry the cost of the price. He has to transfer it to ordinary Nigerians. He has to transfer it to the consumers. Yet, when they are looking for scapegoats, they blame it on the supermarket owners. They blame it on those who are hoarding goods. They blame it on those who are buying in bulks. They blame it on every other person. But the decision taken by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his economic team. And I repeat it, in closing, in this life, I want to say it, that for us to get out of this economic quagmire that we find ourselves. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has to review the subsidy regime. It's true, he said he has removed the first subsidy. The IMF say he's still paying. He has to come clean on it. If he is paying, let us know how he is paying it. Who are the people he's paying it to? That is important. Because coming out clean will help to have impact on the prices of goods and services in the country. If you are not paying fuel subsidy, come out and say you are not paying it. Counter the IMF. If you are paying it, tell Nigerians who you are paying it to. How much have you paid? And then you need to revisit the flotation of the naira. The flotation of the naira is not cast in iron. It is not a spiritual injunction written in the holy books that you cannot change. Even those that are written in holy books are subject to human interpretation. The flotation of the naira has done more harm than good to the economy of Nigeria. The president has to revisit it and review it. There is nothing wrong in going back to the era of protecting the naira, the era of saving the naira, because at that time the situation of Nigerians are not as hard as it is today. The hardship is spreading like wildfire. It needs to be contained, and one of the ways to do it is to review the flotation of the naira. The IMF may not be happy with it. The World Bank may not be happy with it. But the lives that we are living are the lives of Nigerians. It has nothing to do with the IMF. The IMF does not care about Nigerian people more than Nigerian people care about their own lives. The flotation of the naira has to be revisited. If it was not reviewed, I can project that before the end of this year, 3,000 naira will be needed to purchase $1. And you can be talking about 4,000 naira or more to get one United Kingdom pound. I can tell you that for free. There is no two ways about it. We can be beating about the bush as we like, but if we don't do this, what will happen in Nigeria will make what happened in Venezuela looks like a child's play. Thank you for being part of this life, and God bless you.